I'm not proud of how this started. People always assume that only gullible, lonely, or naive people fall for cults, that it could never happen to them. I used to think that too. I had a job I hated, a breakup that felt like it cracked something inside me, and student debt that made every breath feel like a countdown timer. My life wasn't falling apart yet, but I could feel it tilting, like a chair with one loose leg you keep forgetting about until it suddenly snaps. One night, I attended a mindfulness and community workshop at a local co-working space, something I'd found on Meetup. Free snacks, free drinks, and honestly, I just didn't want to be home alone. That's the only reason I went. If I had known what would come from walking into that room, I swear I never would have gone. But the scariest part, it didn't feel like danger. It felt like warmth. That's how they get you. The room was cozy. Dim lights, soft jazz, lavender diffusers pumping mist like tiny chimneys. People chatted quietly, smiling too much, laughing too openly. I'd always been awkward in social settings, so when a girl with dark curls and a nose ring waved me over, I was stunned. Her smile was comforting in a way that felt almost engineered. "I'm Jules. First time?" I nodded. "Yeah, just checking it out." "Well, you're in for a treat. Most people say this place feels like home." It didn't, not yet. But for the first time in a long time, I felt like someone saw me. The workshop leader, a calm, soft-spoken guy named Atlas, walked to the front. He wore a cream-colored sweater and loose pants, no shoes. He spoke with this soothing, deliberate cadence, like every word mattered. "Welcome, everyone. Tonight we're here to honor connection. You'll find no judgment in this room, only clarity." I didn't know it then, but that one line, "no judgment," was bait. I took it, hook, line, and sinker. Throughout the session, Atlas talked about stress, purpose, and finding community. It all sounded normal, healthy even. I participated in a few exercises, breathing stuff, journaling prompts, partner discussions. Jules stuck with me the entire night. "You seemed like someone who needed real people around," she said as we exchanged numbers. It should have unsettled me, how quickly she latched onto me. But I was lonely. Loneliness can turn red flags into rose petals. Before I left, Atlas placed a gentle hand on my shoulder. "You carry heaviness," he said quietly. "Come back next week. We can help you unburden yourself." His voice was calm, but his eyes, they were hungry. Over the next month, I went back every week. At first, I felt amazing. The people were warm. They asked genuine questions about my life. They remembered details most acquaintances forget immediately. Whenever I spoke, everyone listened attentively, nodding like my words had weight. That's intoxicating when you're used to feeling invisible. The meetings were free. The food was free. The people were always smiling. And Jules was always there, guiding, nudging, praising me for opening up. But slowly, things started to shift. The topics turned from mindfulness to healing the self through surrender. Then, surrendering the self to the community. Then, acknowledging the superiority of collective consciousness. They didn't call themselves a cult. They called themselves the Clarion Circle. Every meeting followed the same format: praise, confession, breakdown, rebuilding. They'd exhaust you emotionally and then shower you with affection. One night, Atlas held my hands after a group exercise and said, "You're close to breaking through, but you're clinging to your old identity. That's what's holding you back." "What does that mean?" I asked. He gave a serene smile. "It means the world outside hasn't given you anything. Let us give you everything." I should have run. I should have stopped going. But I didn't, because the outside world felt cold in comparison. And when you're drowning, any hand stretched towards you looks like salvation. After about 6 weeks, Jules invited me to a retreat. "Just a weekend trip," she said. "Only for members who were serious about unlocking themselves." She framed it like an honor. "It's only for people Atlas thinks are ready," she whispered, squeezing my arm. "He picked you specifically." That should have scared me. Instead, it made me feel important. The retreat was at a large farmhouse about 2 hours outside the city. When we pulled up, the first thing I noticed was that there were no neighboring houses, just open fields and dense tree lines. Isolation disguised as serenity. Inside there were about 20 people, all smiling, all too calm. The rules were presented casually. No phones during the retreat, no leaving without notifying Atlas, no talking privately without approval, and no declining group activities. They didn't sound like rules, they sounded like guidelines for connection. But there's a reason they take your phone. A disconnected person is a controllable person. The first day was fine. Group bonding, shared meals, more journaling. But on the second night, everything changed. We gathered in the basement for something called the alignment. Candles lined the floor in a circular pattern. The room was warm, almost uncomfortably so. Everyone sat cross-legged. Atlas walked around us, humming a low, rhythmic tone. "You are no longer individuals," he said softly. "You are vessels of the circle." Then the question started, directed at me. "Why do you fear vulnerability? Why do you sabotage your own happiness? Why do you cling to an identity that causes you pain?" People fired them one after another, not giving me time to answer. Their voices overlapped, a choir of accusation masked as therapy. It felt like interrogation disguised as enlightenment. At some point, I started crying. I didn't even know why. And that's when Atlas knelt in front of me. "Good," he whispered. "Let it out. You're finally breaking." The group hummed in unison, surrounding me like a tightening rope. I felt cornered, bare, exposed. But the worst part was how relieved I felt when Atlas hugged me afterward and everyone applauded. That's the cycle. Break you, praise you, repeat. By the time I went to bed, I was so drained I barely noticed Jules lying on the floor beside my mattress, whispering, "You're close. Don't fight it." The retreat was supposed to be 2 nights, but on the morning we were meant to leave, Atlas announced an extension. "Some of you haven't fully surrendered yet. Leaving now would only deepen your pain." People nodded, as if this was reasonable. I tried to speak up. Jules grabbed my wrist, hard. "Don't embarrass yourself," she whispered. "You're not ready." Something about the grip, the tone, the control. It snapped something inside me. For the first time, I felt fear instead of comfort. I wanted out, but my phone was locked in a box in Atlas's office. Not just locked, gone. When I asked about it, he said, "Phones are distractions. The outside world has poisoned you enough." I didn't argue, not out loud. but internally, panic was building like steam in a sealed pipe. That night, they held another alignment session. This time, they blindfolded me. I heard whispering footsteps, heavy breathing. Someone touched the back of my neck. Someone else whispered, "Give yourself to us." When they removed the blindfold, everyone was staring at me, expressionless. Atlas stepped forward. "You're fighting us," he said. "Why?" "I'm not," I lied. "You are. I can feel it." He leaned in and whispered so quietly, I'm not sure anyone else heard. "Don't make this harder." That was the first moment I felt like I might not leave this place alive. I knew I had to escape, but I had no phone, no car keys, and no one who wasn't completely under Atlas's control. So I pretended. I smiled more. I participated enthusiastically. I said things like, "I think I'm finally opening up," and "I feel the circle working." It worked. A little too well. Atlas started praising me publicly. Jules clung to me constantly, telling people I was her alignment partner. People asked me to lead small exercises. It was like they were grooming me for something. But I kept my focus on escape. On the last night, around 3 a.m., I heard footsteps in the hall. Soft, slow, deliberate. They stopped outside my room. I held my breath. The doorknob turned, once, twice, then again. Someone was testing it. I lay frozen. Then, after a full minute of silence, I heard whispering. "He's not ready. Atlas said he needs more time. Tomorrow, we'll try again." "Try what?" Sleep became impossible. At breakfast, Atlas announced another surprise. One last exercise before we return home. A releasing ceremony. Everyone clapped except me. Jules leaned in and whispered, "This is the big one. You're going to feel reborn." Her eyes were wide, too wide. It wasn't excitement, it was mania. After breakfast, they led us outside to a clearing behind the farmhouse. There was a wooden post in the ground. A rope hung from it. At first glance, it looked like something for tying up equipment. But when one of the members quietly said, "Get the restraints," my stomach dropped. This was not a ceremony. It was initiation through humiliation. Or worse. Atlas gestured toward me. "You will be our release today," he said. "Your fear will be our offering." I stepped back. What does that mean? Jewel grabbed my arm, harder than ever. "Don't resist," she hissed. "You'll make it worse." Members began forming a circle around me, blocking every exit. My heartbeat was a hammer inside my skull. Atlas spoke calmly. "Surrender, and you'll be reborn. Fight, and you'll stay broken." I knew then, if I let them tie me up, I wasn't making it out. I don't know what snapped in me. Adrenaline, survival instinct, whatever. But I shoved Jules so hard she fell backward into 2 other members. Gasps erupted. Someone screamed, "Stop him!" I ran, full sprint, through the trees, branches whipping my face, mud slipping under my shoes. I heard footsteps behind me, multiple people. They weren't yelling anymore. They were hunting. I kept going until my lungs burned. I didn't stop until I reached the road. Thank God there was a road, just as an old pickup truck approached. I waved my arms like a lunatic. The driver slowed. I didn't give him a chance to question me. I just yanked open the passenger door and begged, "Please drive, please, they're after me." He took one look at my face and hit the gas. As we sped off, I looked back and saw 3 members emerging from the woods, Jules included. She wasn't running, she was smiling. A slow, eerie smile that told me this wasn't over, that she'd let me go. Or worse, expected me to run. Atlas didn't chase. He just watched from the tree line, like he knew he'd see me again. I filed a police report. They questioned me for hours. When they drove out to the farmhouse, it was empty. No furniture, no candles, no basement setup, not even the wooden post behind the house. It looked like no one had lived there in years. The police told me that without evidence, there wasn't much they could do. They advised me to avoid fringe spiritual groups, as if I didn't already know that. For months, I jumped at every noise. I changed my number, moved apartments, quit social media. But I still get emails from unknown addresses with the subject line, "You didn't finish your awakening." Sometimes they attach photos. Photos taken of me walking home from work. Photos of me sleeping in my apartment. The police still can't trace them, but the Clarion Circle isn't gone. They're just patient. People think cults are obvious. Robes, chanting, weird symbols. But the real dangerous ones, they look like self-help groups, therapy circles, spiritual retreats, communities that promise acceptance. They find you when you're vulnerable. They make you feel seen. They rewrite your reality with kindness, then control. And by the time you realize the trap, the door is already shut behind you. I'm lucky I got out, but every night I wonder how close I actually came to dying in those woods.